Yeah, the writing in that show was definitely awful. So we'll never talk about that show again. But we're now live on the Wicked Weekend Podcast, first of its kind in the 2022 years, and excited to be here with my crew. We
in the
got
year
Matt Trin. Yes, what was that?
in the year 2020 plus 2.
2020 plus two, exactly. That's the proper
Yeah.
way to say it. We have so that voice was, of course, Matt Trin. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
And we have Michael from Omen Comics
Hey, how's it going?
and Cody from Ironverse Comics.
Howdy, howdy.
And we're glad to have all these fine folks here. It's been a minute since we've been on the podcast. We took our little winter break. That seems to be becoming an annual tradition by some weird happenstance. But we're back here and hopefully can have a good time. So yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it. Hope you all been well. Hope holidays were good. Hope you guys had a good whatever holiday you celebrate. And yeah, what have you guys been up to in this new year?
Well, in this new year, we've been really pushing the Seder comic, trying to get some
Yeah.
signups going and everything, and getting that art done and everything. It's kind of a process.
I bet, man. Yeah. Yeah, you and Cody both are kind of in that same boat or train, depending on how you look on it. You know.
A boat-like train. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Pushing number 4 myself. Got those sign-ups going. Got the art in process. All that good stuff. It's been a real revival of my passion for this stuff. 'Cause last year was mostly the slug fest, trying to just grind through and get everything done, which we're finally able to say is done. So that's been incredible, because that was it was a hell of a learning experience, and I'm certain I'm better for going through it. But nonetheless, I don't look forward to repeating anything close to that. so we're working hard. We're working hard getting everything together, and hoping for a really fun 2022 with with our work.
Yeah, I'm hoping this will be a really great year for everyone with Wicked, and hoping everyone will be able to do a lot of really cool stuff this year. So yeah, definitely.
We're shooting for 3, hopefully 4 comics this year.
Nice. That would be pretty awesome. And and I assume some of those will be a revelation, maybe like at least one of those.
Yes, 2 Revelation comics and 2 Omen comics.
Nice. Dang, wow. Very nice, man. Yeah, that would be very cool. And Seder, surprisingly, is a Revelation comic, which is interesting to me, because I actually kind of thought, based on the Vikings theme, that it would be an Omen comic.
Well, I suppose that technically, if you wanted to squeeze that into the Omen verse, you could probably do it and get away with it. But I guess it's that it had nothing to do with the main Omen verse story.
I see.
But it does have the similar elements with it has the horror elements and the mythology elements and stuff. So I mean, it could fit into the Owen verse. It's just a standalone story, is why I chose to put it in Revelation.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that'll be fun to see how that one comes out. Vikings are really popular right now, so it's a good time.
Yeah,
for it.
You know what? We couldn't actually ask for better timing with Vikings Valhalla coming out next month, and that's when the Kickstarter is launching.
And you had Assassin's Creed last year, and what's that other one? God of War. There's like a revival of interest in Viking stuff right now, I feel like.
Yeah.
Probably because of Thor.
Thor partially, but I don't know. Like the Thor, I mean, Thor is great and all, but he's not like I feel like there's a resurgence of like the tradition, even more of a traditional Viking like love for like the where it kind of came from. And I probably, a lot of that probably came from that Viking show you were talking about, because I remember when that show was on History Channel, like that made some pretty big waves. People were like, that was kind of a big deal. So
oh yeah, that is a great show. I think at least part of the style I chose to go through as far as presentation and Seder was definitely inspired by stuff I saw in that Viking show.
Nice.
I just really liked that it had that feel of authenticity and realness to it, and I wanted to try and capture that.
Maybe you should check out oh shoot, I'm gonna blank on it. Someone help me. It's the Viking manga.
Yeah. Okay, so I've seen
Oh
the
darn it,
anime.
what's
What
it?
is that called? What is that called? That's what bugged me too.
It's like something
Something with
Saga or something like that, right?
yeah. Something Saga.
Vinland Saga.
Vinland Saga. That is it.
Yes, go read that
That's
one,
it.
dude. That's like if you want to like Viking Batman, go read Vinland Saga.
Viking Batman. That sounds
Essentially,
like a crossover I gotta check out.
it's a really good fucking comic. It's. I read the first volume and the first volume especially is like super standout for me.
All
I
right.
definitely recommend it. It's like it has it to me. It feels a lot like Berserk, but with Vikings. In
Yeah,
how
I
it
still
approaches
haven't checked out
historical.
Berserk. I've seen that it's on Netflix or something like that. Is that the same thing?
There
It's like
is,
some cartoon.
yeah, it covers like the Golden Age arc a little bit. I forgot which film they put up there, but Berserk's definitely one I recommend. I can recommend to. I can't recommend it to everybody. I don't think it's going to ever be to everybody's taste just because of what it chooses to deal with and how it chooses to do it. But the artistry it is masterful, and if it is your taste, it's going to resonate with you almost better than any other work. It means a lot to me. Berserk's a good one. It really explores the nature of the shadow. It's a lot of Jungian philosophy, a little bit of Nietzsche stuff, and it's pretty gory, but it's extraordinarily like technically proficient in the art. It's just a sight to behold.
Hey, anybody
Yeah.
that knows me knows I like the gory stuff. You have me sold as soon as you said that.
Yeah, you might not like. I don't know. You might not like Vinland Saga as much. Then I feel like that one's a little more. It's not quite as dark, I would say.
Yeah.
And it gets it's like I feel like it's because the way I look at the T series is it's almost like the opposite of Berserk, where Berserk gets darker and darker. This one
Yeah.
kind of gets lighter and lighter because, like I said, he becomes like Batman, right? So he starts off as some one thing and he becomes something else. So you're watching the character become less and less dark in a sense. So
Hey,
it's kind of a reverse story.
I can appreciate a broad range of things. I mean, while I'm a horror fanatic, like I think I watched Halloween Kills like 8 times. At the same time, I'm having a Harry Potter marathon right now. So
There you go.
That's funny. Now, I did want to see if we could answer this question from the chat. Speaking of New Year, we're talking about the New Year and what we're all up to this New Year. Hothead Stu says, looking to write more stories this year, but I'm struggling to bring myself back to producing again. Any advice from the chat or panel?
Well,
I guess
you get. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I feel like that I need more information there. Like it would depend on what it is you're struggling with. Is it not wanting to play the game anymore? Not wanting to do? Is it a difficulty with the story? What is the struggle there?
That's
Yeah,
a good question.
I can. Yeah, I can only add. If see, I can't write. I can't force myself to write. Some people are great at that. Like they can create content anytime they desire. It might not be their peak, but they can sit down and do it when they desire. Right? They have that discipline. I don't. So I totally understand not feeling like inspired to write. But I'm lucky in that what I do, there's so many different angles that always need to be done. So there's always something to continue putting towards the work. But in terms of writing more stories, I mean, don't beat yourself up on it. That's the number one thing. You're definitely not going to get good quality content for being mad at yourself for not writing, or being disappointed even in yourself for not writing. Just let it come when it feels like it. If it's necessary to do it, that's a different story. But I think if you're doing it for yourself or for something else, then you make sure it feels rewarding and it's something you want to do. And maybe it's not the right idea, or maybe it's not the right timing, but eventually it will be if it's something you really love. I can promise you that.
I think that was well said. There's definitely something to. I mean, I personally work by inspiration too. I guess one of the ways that I'm able to do that is that I stay ahead of everything. I never rest on my laurels as far as writing goes.
No, that's a good way to look at it. Kind of. Let me ask you this. This may be, again, we don't know what Hothead Studios was referring to exactly there, but if I could interpolate a little bit, maybe, let's say maybe they're feeling burnt out or they're tired. Like, we talked about being tired from work and things like that. How do you guys approach like those kind of things where you're like, oh, you want to write, but maybe you're not sure how to you're having a hard time getting the energy to do so.
I guess I do that by little bits at a time. Like for instance, the whole story of the Omen verse really kind of started with a paragraph that just kind of build as I got ideas added to it. So you know what I mean? It doesn't. It's not just an all one sitting. You put it all out.
Interesting. Yeah, like Rome wasn't all built in a day.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
true. Me again. I find something else involving the work that I do want to do. That's usually what I end up doing. Writing. Again, I really need that inspiration, and when I have it, I can pump out crazy amounts of work. I'm really, I enjoy. But otherwise, yeah, it's a tough one. Like being burnt out from work, that's always that's a consistent issue, right? And so that's a hindrance, and I'm lucky enough to be in a position that I don't absolutely have to pump out writing. Now, if it's it's your profession or it's something you need to do, that's a little bit different story. And there's different like carrots on those sticks, right? You need to eat that kind of stuff. And I find that being I'm certain that would be more inspiring to me in those circumstances than regular old.
True.
I'm burnt out. I'd love to create, but I can't right now because I need to sleep, or I need to rest, or I need to do something else. And sometimes it's just mental fatigue on the whole thing too. Sometimes just hard to push it through. Okay. He said a follow-up. I guess it comes down to the brainstorm process. A lot of ideas firing off, but nothing structured, and it becomes overwhelming. Well, that's part of it, right? You got to find what you really want to do. And I mean, I work a lot of elements into my work, but it always has one like guiding compass that I really want to pursue. And so I recommend finding something that you can continuously mine, and it's rewarding to you. Find that idea, and then your brainstorming will be more effective.
On that note, with it being rewarding, I mean, do you guys, as comic book creators, do you not like? I personally find it's I don't know. I guess I'm kind of like a comic book making junkie. Every time I put out a comic, I'm just looking for that next fix and putting out another one. and that kind of that desire to put out another comic, I find often inspiring. But as far as Hothead Studios' statement there, I think that. Like I said, I wouldn't worry about it needing to be absolutely structured right now. I as a side note, I personally worked when I did the Omen verse. I wrote the story from the end and wrote it backwards. I did the same thing with Seder, where I start with a situation. I said, okay, this is where I want them to end up. How would they get there? But again, it was little bits at a time until it all started piecing together, and then it was going back over those notes, those little bits that I put together, and eventually it started to become a bigger picture.
Huh. Okay, yeah, that's really interesting.
The only other inspiration I come up with, because you brought up that junkie fix, right? In the same bit, right? I want to continue to work with my team, and I want to be able to be there for them in the ways I need to. And there's a point in that timeline where the script is the biggie, and that totally inspires me. That gets me moving for sure.
Interesting.
But in the brainstorming bit, usually I come up with something I wanna explore, and that's usually what it is. I try to find something with a lot of depth, but is very straightforward. That's usually how I can go, because then it's got a direction that you can play with, because there's a lot of, there's depth, there's room to move it around, but it's got a defined direction. That tends to work very well for me in the brainstorming process, and that usually doesn't take too long for me. I usually find a hook I really want to explore pretty quick. I know it's not the same for everybody, but that's what works for me.
That's good. I think that's all good advice. Definitely gonna have to take some of those notes myself here and get writing. My artists probably want some scripts themselves.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, it is tough.
So Cody, I got a random question for you.
Okie doke.
Okay. So I can't. I'm looking at the picture you got there with your steel cowboy smoking the pipe.
It.
And I'm wondering, what does a steel cowboy smoke?
Okay, so that's a big lore thing, actually. So issue number 2, we introduced the concept of protein Z. It's got a bunch of different slang names, but what it was a process when humanity started starving. Famine Inc. took over the world, and humanity started starving. That was just the natural bit. What Famine Inc. does, it causes suffering, causes pain, and a lack of abundance. And some group of scientists figured out how to recycle natural material into edible material. Whether it was radioactive or it was anything that was natural. You could eat wood is what this process allows you to do. So it can do anything like that. And one of the side effects is you can, after the fall of man, so after all 4 horsemen have manifested, the plague has hit everybody. The plague altered people. There's a lot there. It's all issue 2. But one of the things you can do with Pro is smoke it. And what it does is it clears the lungs out of those toxic materials and those negativities. So you'll see a lot of humans and other species in Ironverse comics smoking Prot, because it allows them not to have to wear like a biohazard suit or whatever out in really nasty places, because it naturally processes that stuff for them. So that's what he's smoking. Yes, you can drink it. You can. There's all kinds of. It's basically it's mana, right? It's almost like the biblical mana. It can keep folks alive. It can do all kinds of things with just a small amount of it, and all you need is the machine that processes it.
It also might be the only thing I've ever heard of that you can smoke that's actually good for your lungs.
That's one of the jokes too, right? Because that they keep removing anything like that in comics because of that, right? I mean, there's a lot of adult comics like mine's. So I found out Fist of the North Star's like 14 plus, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, so I'm hitting about Fist of the North Star, just a little one naughty word instead. So that's the demographic, and so you don't want to corrupt the demographic, and I get that idea, but it's part of the satire, part of the fatalism and the noir feel I wanted in Ironverse comics, and the fact that it has a lore hook to it, I think it justifies it a bit more.
That's
by the way,
cool. I like it.
By the way, Cody, Dollar Coin's in the house.
Oh, howdy.
If you saw that message, I'll put up on the screen for you there again. He has it says trips in. Sorry, picks up spaghetti and sits.
Yes, that's a wonderful co-editor, co-creator over at Ironverse Comics. A great guy. Check out Cactus Coyote if you would. More of that coming out. We've actually just about finished the ash can for that, and we'll be seeing what we do with that here in the next few months. From what I've heard,
we're gonna be able to see that
excited.
soon. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
That'll be very exciting. And now, is that going to be coming out before the campaign launches then?
No.
Okay.
Campaign launches next month.
Nice.
He and I were debating kind of where to put the ash can. And there's a secret something else that may occur partway through this issue number 4 campaign that I think it lands in better. But we'll see how things finish. I think it's getting lettered right now, and we're waiting on our wonderful colorist to finish a few pages. And he got on a couple monthlies and stuff, so his schedule kind of got cramped pretty quick. So it might be a little bit. We're waiting for the timing to fall together, which usually does for us when it's supposed to. It might not be when we want, but it's usually when I think it's supposed to.
That's usually the best way for it anyway.
That's what I think.
It never comes when you want it, but it always comes right on time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Wizards never early or late, just exactly when he intends.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. That's definitely gonna be really cool to see that. And so yeah, a lot of cool Wicked comics coming out soon, and crowdfunding, a lot of cool stuff happening. We've got,
Yes, indeed.
I know, I was just talking to, I'm probably gonna be meeting with him this week, but Honors is working on some new horror comics.
Oh, interesting.
He's yeah, one's called Clowns, and the other one, which I think we can all guess what that one's about. Um, Not too hard
Mimes.
to guess.
Lions.
Pretty sure it's about
Mimes,
mimes.
exactly. You got it, man.
Yeah,
Got it
mimes.
in
I
one.
wonder what Killer Clowns from Outer Space is about.
Bunch
Who
of kids
knows,
having
man?
fun at a
Who knows?
carnival, of
I
course.
couldn't guess. And then the other book he's coming out with, both of them are standalone. The other one's, I can't remember the title, but it's like essentially a story about the horrors of therapy, of like going to a therapist, and like a twisted version of that, and kind of playing on fears of that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, interesting. I'm always up for a good psychological exploration.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because especially since the first he's done Blood Ties and Holger, both of which were more action type. They were action. There really wasn't any horror in them. So it'll be cool.
Yeah, one was kind of political intrigue, and then the other was definitely
More
a bit more actiony.
Yeah. True. But yeah, so that'll be cool. And then we've got Starring Volume 1 coming out. We'll be printing that this month.
Oh, excellent.
And then I've got Barrels 4 coming out this month. That's the final one.
And as a fan, I'm personally begging for some more barrels when that gets done.
Yeah, we just did an interview over on Michael's channel. Well, it's not on your YouTube channel. It's on. Well, I don't know.
It's on the
you
podcast.
Tell me what it is.
Yeah. Omen Revelations podcast. It's on there.
It is? Okay, yeah. Because I know you guys put stuff on, I think, Anchor or FM, maybe, I think is what it's called.
Right, but you can, based off of Anchor, you can watch it on basically any major platform that hosts podcasts.
Okay, interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. I'll have to talk to you about that. And maybe we've talked about it already. I just forgot, but it does sound interesting. But yeah, no, that was a fun interview about the comic. That was a lot of fun, and you're pretty much the only one I think who's read the whole 4 issues now. Like, so you've seen the ending, because I don't really give out preview copies really for those, and so until it's printed, nobody really sees it.
Oh well, I'll be quiet about it.
There you go. Yeah. Keep those secrets. I want to myself.
I did really like it though. I'm looking. I thought it was a great ending for that story. But like as I said, I'm hoping we do a little bit more exploring.
Calling for an arc too, Michael. You better get on that.
Yeah.
Or my prequel.
There you go.
Right. That prequel idea was pretty sick.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I want to go back and explore Tommy's dad as a like a mafioso in Italy in the early 1900s. So when was World War One? That was like the 19. What was that? When was it again?
Like 19. Yeah. It started a little bit into there. It just depends on when you call it, but most people is when Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated, and I think that was like 1911. I want to say something.
Okay,
like
so
that.
the flashbacks we saw were in 1908. So yeah, it would be pre-World War One. It would be like early 1900 maybe even, or like 1903. So yeah, it'd be pre-World War One. So it'd be pretty interesting to see that kind of story unfold and what that would look like in Italy. And if I could get Jeff to come back, oh man, he just does beautiful art.
Yeah, the origin of the mafia is pretty interesting. So I'd like to see that. The Sicilian extortion racket is what it started on, protecting farms and farmers. Since if I remember right, since Italy had just kind of unified and it wasn't that strong, no longer had a monarch, right? So it's a trip. It's a trip.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how these kind of things form for certain reasons, and then they have these long-lasting effects throughout decades and decades of time like that.
Yeah. Hot had another good question I kind of want to bring up. Any writing programs the panel uses? I picked up Scrivener this year, but I still use traditional methods sometimes. I use like Google Drive, Google whatever, the document thing that they do because it's just simple. It's up there and it's easy for me to share. But I know there's a lot of benefits to Scrivener. And I know there's a few different you can even get it to format it so you don't have to waste time writing panel or page on a few programs. But I just use something that's basically like Word, except it's just easier for me to share. But I think there's a couple people maybe even in here that use Scrivener.
Matt, don't you use Scrivener, or am I mistaken?
I use Scrivener. I use Final Draft. I use anything that crosses my path, basically.
You dabble.
Yep.
I use Google Docs too. I think Steve uses Word.
Yeah, I just use Word. I'll be honest, I'm lazy. I just use Word. I'm like, it works for me.
Yeah, when I started, it was all Notepad.
Right. I still got like 2 notebooks full of just notes and scribbles and.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I do this is just this is like a me thing, but I like to, let's say I'm writing a panel, maybe I'm doing the dialogue or maybe I'm doing the description or something. If it goes to the next page halfway through that description or that dialogue, I'll go back to the top of that bullet point or whatever my delineation of that new page, panel, etc. I'll take that and I'll just put it down to the next page. That way there's no mistake. Like the artist's not going to be reading the page, think they're done, do the whole art for the page and realize, oh shit, there was something really important on the next page that I didn't finish reading that I've now screwed myself over because I didn't put it in here. So just to make sure there's no mistakes between the artist and the writer, I always make sure there's no panel that gets cut off by the end of the page. It always starts on the next page with just a blank at the end of that last page.
Yeah, that's smart. I haven't had that issue because there's that slight language barrier, so he's already checking to translate everything before he reads it appropriately. But and like my scripts are like it's a skeleton more than a guide. So that's the other bit too. Like Maxie already has done quite a few things. Page 1 on issue 4, he changed the setup of a panel so that it's an Akira homage. Page 2 or 3, he decided I want this to be a double page spread, things like that. So and I just see what he's doing. He shoots me the thumbnail or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, that's badass. Go do
nice.
it. So that I'm lucky to have that rapport. But I could see especially in a more professional environment where it's like 2 freelancers who are put together by an editor or something. You definitely don't want any kind of confusion in that communication because it might even just be the editor that's communicating your script to the artist and not even you, right? So I could see that. And I know a lot of writers too, like Grant Morrison and a few others, Alan Moore. If you ever look at their scripts, they are unbelievably detailed to a point where it's kind of like, the artist knows what they're supposed to do and they better do it. It's very different to how I work, but you can totally see that is a method that has worked.
That's funny.
I know that we have to do that with Omen and Revelation Comics, in part because our artist lives in Nigeria. Basically we really only communicate through social media. We have email, but I guess we just don't use it that often. But really, the idea is we need to write our scripts so that, and both our letterer lives in Argentina. So, I mean, these scripts got to be able to go to these places, and these people got to be able to see what's going on in the script, understand everything that we intend, without there having to be a bunch of back and forth. So we try to get as detailed as possible when we're trying to write it out.
Yeah, I think just for clarity's sake, I think it's always good just to be as clear as possible, and that way, there's just no misunderstandings, regardless of whatever the case may be. But I think just for the sake of that, it's always a good idea, just to be clear and concise. I try to make my scripts like really neat and easy to follow, and whatnot. So, but yeah, everyone's got a different style. Everyone's got their own,
Absolutely.
script style. So, whatever
But
works between you and your
like
artist.
your artist, Cody, mine tends to change paneling a little bit. Yeah, he tends to add his own little creative flair to things that honestly, I've yet to have a time where he does that, and it's not better than what I had in mind.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cody.
Oh yeah, that's usually how it goes if you've got the right bit, right? It's a collaborative art. So if you're being very strict about it, sometimes you need to be because there's a nuance that you need to communicate that they aren't getting. That's something. But I still haven't had to do that. Usually he's adding the nuances that just add extra to it. But that's the bit. If you're working in comics in that way and you're not like an artist writer, then yeah, that bit, the spirit of collaboration's gotta be there, in my opinion. Otherwise, you kind of feel it in the work in some cases.
In one thing I will say, oh sorry, well I'll just say this real quick. I just want to say, it's because when I write barrels, I wrote with like the strict panels per page because that way I could kind of control the page length a little better. But on the other side, it was also kind of fun to make Jeff kind of throw this challenge at Jeff. Where it's like, oh, you got to do this many panels per page, and then he comes up with the page layout, the panel layout. And so it was interesting to see him come back and say like, okay, I have to do this many panels. And occasionally he'd be like, can I add a page or can I, throw in, reworking the number? But most of the time he'd come back and boom, he'd come out with something with that many panels. And it was so cool. Like one time I even threw one where it's like, there's a fight scene on this page between the two characters and it's 11 panel page. And he came back and I was like, oh my God, that's crazy the way he did it. It was like so good. So it was kind of fun to like challenge him in that way almost, So that was kind of interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I gotta say that while Omen Comics started with just me and my trailer, since adding like Steve and Tosin and Guido and Russ and everybody, I feel like what I had was really in its infancy before everybody else got involved. There's wisdom in the multitude of counsel, as they say.
Yes.
Very true. Yeah, the collaboration is the funnest part about these kind of projects. Yeah. Unless you're an e-buy, of course, then you can just do it all yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a whole other bit. I was just talking to somebody about the different needs of different teams, and that was one of the big ones where I think artist writers have very different needs in terms of the business and then teams. It's a different kind of battle, right? They're spending most of their time on the creative end, whereas a lot of collaborators they have to find ways to be able to continue the production end while at the same time doing the marketing, and that's the same thing with writer artists, but they don't have as much of that ability because they're involved in the process the whole time. So it's slightly different needs.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. You got to be. I wish I could be. In some ways, I wish I could draw, but I would just. You can what I'm trying to say. Anyone can invest the time into it. Of course, it takes a long time, but if you want to, you can put that time into it. And I know even like Nana from our team has been putting a lot of hard work into her own art lately to really try and improve it so she can do her own comics. So I definitely commend her on that. But it's definitely not easy,
Yeah, it's a grind. You're adding double to your grind, and then you already have the other layers of it to do. So yeah, no, I very much envy those folks who are able to do that, master that trifecta.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I found I think I'm wearing, I don't know, about 6 or 7 hats running Omen Comics and Revelation.
Yep,
you're like, I don't need
that's how
another
it
job.
goes.
Oh man, yeah. But you guys been reading anything lately?
I don't know if I told you guys about this. I did a signing at a local bookstore, and it was apparently I don't know. It's apparently pretty successful for them because they were, shall we say, very grateful. I originally only had the first 2 books of the Preacher series, and they gave me the whole rest of the series. Just here
Damn.
you go. And
Damn, that's
so
pretty
I've
nice,
been,
dude.
yeah, that was pretty sweet. I never had that one happen before. So I've been reading through Preacher.
Very nice. I love Garth Ennis, man. He's my
Yes,
man.
I'm also on that boat. He brought me into comics and kept
Hell
me here.
yes. Yeah, dude. It was him and Jamie Delano who brought me back into comics as an adult with Hellblazer when I started reading that series, and those 2 writers were so seminal for my coming back to comics.
Hell yeah. Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
dude.
John Constantine, Hellblazer, one of my favorite comics ever.
So good. So good. The last volume is coming out this month, or not this month, in March, just in time for my birthday.
Excellent.
And yeah, it's well, I don't know, should I say how old I'm turning?
It's
Doesn't
up to
matter. It's kind of a big year for me. in my opinion.
21.
No, yeah, really, I wish.
You're at 16, Michael. Good job.
I wish it was 21. Fuck. No, 30. I'm turning 30 this year.
So am I. Don't worry. We're at that.
I forgot. Yeah, we have the same. Yeah, the same year. That's funny.
I got it just as a warning. 30s when I started to get fat.
Don't tell me that, dog. I already knew.
I'm outpacing you. No, I've consistently been losing weight since my 20s or something.
Really?
Early 20s. So
Oh,
yeah,
really?
just being more active, less
Yeah, that's my
depressed,
one
less
thing.
hiding in a shell, working with dogs. You know,
now
all
you
that
tell
fun
me.
stuff.
All the shit I've been doing for years now. Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, so that last of the last Hellblazer volume is coming out next, or like you said, in a couple months, and so I'm trying to catch up on the ones I have, so I can just finish off the series. The last one looks pretty dope. I love the cover.
I think I think I have a good chunk of that ending. Is it a trade reprint of the Vertigo run? Yeah, okay. So then I have a good chunk of the floppies from that last run.
Yes,
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I love the floppies. I love how they're all like in a uniform, collection, and they put everything together. They put all the one shots. They put all the graphic novels. Like it's the entire collection of everything.
Very cool.
Yeah,
That's
a
actually
nice
one
series.
thing I actually prefer about DC Vertigo over Marvel is that DC puts everything in a trade.
Oh, interesting.
Marvel does that with occasional titles and stuff, like maybe 3/4 of their titles are put into trades.
Oh, that's weird.
Whereas DC, you can get entire runs and stuff and collections in those trades.
That is nice.
Yeah, I know there's some writers and artists who continuously say, "Come on, reprint my stuff" to Marvel. And yeah, I get really sad when it's like creators like Dave Mateus and other like really good authors. But I know Max, which was their kind of competition with that for the blood and guts kind of gore kind of stuff. They did pretty consistently on
Marvel
their trades.
Max?
Even on the like 4-issue limited series, which there was quite a few towards the end.
Was that where Punisher Max comes from?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Punisher Max. God, what else? I have Wisdom Max. Fury Max. There's a bunch of stuff under there where it was like, let's make it adult, especially with characters that have that already kind of built into them.
Nice.
Fury, My War Gone is one of the best like comments on, again talking Garth Ennis, comments on the growth of espionage in this century. It's absolutely incredible, and it's a perfect end to the White Fury. It finishes his storyline. You can kind of imply it's the Steranko Fury. It's that bit, but he went a different path since Marvel went a different path.
Is that the Fury No My War Gone By?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. It's the death of a very old soldier, and the guy who went from seeing what World War II's definition of soldier, the OSS Special Forces kind of spy soldier, to the CIA, and then the seedy stuff that came out of that and continued basically his entire career. How it finishes is again perfect. Just like I was impressed. The thing that got me to at least appreciate Jason Aaron is he picked up the ball from Garth Ennis's Punisher Max run and then finished Frank in a way I could appreciate.
That's cool.
It really sucks Ennis didn't finish Max. I would have really liked his voice throughout all of it. But I
And
think they did bring Dillon back, Steve Dillon, which again, Hellblazer. Yeah, I mean, he worked with Ennis
That's true,
many
yeah.
times.
I
Preacher
love
is
his
like the
art.
big one. Yeah, he's got a little bit of same face syndrome, but he's very very consistent, very communicative with his paneling work. So it kind of
Mhm.
belies the skill. You actually have to read it to really look at it. Otherwise, again, a lot of characters look very similar.
I
But
can see that, yeah.
yeah, but so they brought him and put Jason Aaron with him, and that's the main thing I've read from Jason Aaron. I know he got more mainstream. I think that was they were putting people on Max like they do that were a little bit. They wanted to test them and it would let them loose, and let them put out all their ability on the table and then check if they want to put them on Avengers or something a bit more mainstream. And I appreciated that. I was surprised that he was able to do it competently, just because of how much groundwork Ennis had kind of put into Frank up to that point. It had to be intimidating. I really respect picking that up and doing it well.
Wow.
the Garth Ennis Steve Dillon combo actually did one of my all-time favorite Punisher stories, and that's Welcome Back, Frank.
Yes, that was great. I mean, after giving them an angel wings and hunting demons, they're like, "Oh, this didn't work." And then this is like, "Hey, I've done Frank before. What do you think?" And then we got a lot of that Thomas Jane Punisher movie comes from that arc, and I really appreciate that.
Yes.
The Russian is such a fun character. And then the interactions with Frank and Spider-Man and the Russian is just hilarious. I mean, there's some the comedy that Ennis is able to put in there with such a straight-faced character. It's so great.
He's so funny, dude. He has such a cutting humor.
Yes.
By the way, I had some great people in the chat. We got Ebi, Long Live Wicked. He says, "What's up, guys?"
Howdy.
What's up, Ebi? How's it going, man? We got BMR Comics. What's up? What's up?
Howdy, Nick.
Excited for Jack 4.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, no, Garth Ennis is great. Like I was telling on Michael, I think we were talking about this during my interview, but I'm reading The Boys right now, which is
nice.
freaking good, dude. I can't even I'll probably watch the show eventually, but for me, like the comic is just so good. Like I just don't even need the show right now because the comic is so damn good. It is such a. Have any of you ever read it?
No.
You really
I've only
Cody.
read the first couple of volumes.
Watch this. You should read the comic, Cody, because like it's such a satire on the comic book industry as a whole.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
they got
it's
really
so
pissed
good.
there for a while, just like Watchmen was like, I'm really pissed off. I'm gonna see what I can do with it. And everybody's like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. And then Alan Moore went home and cried.
I honestly I might get a little feedback on this one here, but in my opinion, The Boys dissects superhero comics and breaks it down in the same fashion that Watchmen did, and I would put it on the same level.
I would too, and not only that, but it also plays around with historical fiction, like where it's taking things that we know from history and changing them slightly, just the way that Watchmen did. Like it is such an homage. Like there's so many elements of Watchmen in it, and it is a really good. And at the same time, it's so much more dirty and dark than Watchmen ever could be because of who Garth Ennis is as a writer.
Yeah, no, that trifecta out of England was great. Or technically, Ennis, I believe, was out of Scotland. But that trifecta, like Kevin Berger, if I'm remembering that last name, one of the founders of Vertigo, she did a wonderful gift bringing those young men over to the English comics and saying, just do what the hell you want, show us your flavor. And then watching Vertigo die broke my heart. But Grant Morrison, Garth Ennis, and Alan Moore, that trifecta really did change comics. Some ways for the worse because everybody wanted to be them, right? But then some ways for the better because it gave a new definition of what a comic could be. And so it's a tough one. It's definitely a mixed bag. But what they put on the table is not usually a mixed bag. I can't even think of a Garth Ennis title that I wasn't at least like, this is pretty good. It's pretty good. Morrison's all over the place. We 3 is my favorite of Morrison's work, but I know a lot of people like his more mainstream stuff, and I haven't read much of it, so I can't say. There's some Hellblazer he did I don't like. so it's he's a bit more of a mixed bag than Ennis for me.
You know what's interesting about not just the British invasion of the 90s with the comic book writers, but there was also the British invasion in the 60s with the music. And in both cases, I would like to point out that they basically took what we were doing, did it better, and sold it back to us.
Well, there's also the original British invasion in the 1800s when they tried to steal our country.
No, man, they just wanted to say, that White House wasn't good enough the first time. That's all they were saying. And then there's also a new wave of British heavy metal, which that's what brought me in. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, a bunch of other films. That's what brought. I mean, that was my teenage years, no question. It's still my life.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Animal Man. So that was the big thing with Grant Morrison was how he decided to deconstruct, which was a little bit different than Ennis, who went really like satirical and grounded in reality. Moore went more like socio-political commentary and deconstruction. Morrison in Animal Man, which I think is what got him like a big deal, was all psychological and sometimes psychedelic, and it's a trip like what Morrison did with Animal Man. I forgot about Animal Man. Thank you, Hothead, for reminding me about that. Animal Man really did redefine what a kind of a forgotten hero can be. What you can do with a forgotten hero.
You know who's great at that? James Gunn. I don't know if anyone's been watching Peacemaker, but there's some great weird side characters and other things, weird references in that show for DC Comics fans.
Neat. I didn't follow through on that.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think it's decent. It's a little. I feel like I'm still adjusting to the style, I guess.
Okay, I could see it. Yeah, coming off of the Suicide Squad movie, you mean?
I guess I'm just more used to it's more along the lines of like a Doom Patrol kind of thing, where it's a little offbeat, a little weird. It's like, even with Doom Patrol, it took about 6 or 7 episodes before I really got into it.
See, yeah, I mean, I will give you that. It is weird, but to me, it's like the classic James Gunn weird, where it's like he gives you a bunch of weird stuff, but he pulls you back in with good writing and good story. Where at the end of the day, you do care about the character, even though like the character is a complete asshole. And then of course you've got the James Gunn thing with music, right? And so in Guardians, it was like the '80s music, and this one it's a revival of like hair metal music and like a love for that kind of stuff. So if you like hair metal, you'll like this show.
Oh yeah, actually, after watching the last episode, I had to listen to Cinderella's Night Songs album a couple times.
Yeah, right. So that at the very least, you can say the music is good.
Yeah.
Right. Oh man, yeah.
So I'm curious, what did you think of back to the Animal Man thing there for a second there? What did you think of Jeff Lemire's run in the New 52? How they kind of redid Animal Man?
Are you familiar with that one, Cody?
I'm not. I mainly know because Morrison brought me into a lot of different things than comics. But past that, like, I was more interested in what he was doing than the character, if you get my drift. So I didn't stick with the character. Hothead might know, simply because he says Animal Man's what brought him back into comics.
True.
Me personally, I don't know. Michael, if you have any idea.
I did not. I was not one. I almost got to it. I actually started reading some of the New 52 stuff in the earlier days, but I really like the kind of gravitate more towards the Batman stuff in that, and like with the Scott Snyder stuff, I really dig that. Yeah.
Essentially, they took the Animal Man idea, and instead of making it about a spaceship getting powers that way, they kind of turned it into something very similar to what Swamp Thing is, in that, like Swamp Thing is the avatar of the green, Animal Man became the avatar of the red, which was the Animal Kingdom.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. And they had
agrees with you.
Couple
love that one. He's he says I love that Animal Man.
Nice.
52 run.
Yeah, New 52 is a bold idea. I'm proud that they tried. I wish they would have really stuck with it.
Constantine had dope, semi-short run in that, universe, and
I mean, I'm glad they saved him.
hell yeah, see, me too. You gotta
That
bring
was
him
my
back.
main
If you
bit.
saved anyone from Vertigo, you gotta save my boy John.
Yeah, they had to save John. I mean, he started with Swamp Thing, so he was always kind of there. But
True.
at the end of the day, they could have, he was definitely not. They've done a lot of work to try and make him more friendly while not completely destroying his character.
Which is good.
Which
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I know, they've never messed up the backstory. It's always been the same, where it's child sacrifice that screwed him up.
And of course,
so
he's a pop. He likes pop, or
Yeah,
not pop music,
punk.
punk
Yeah,
music.
yeah. Because I mean, he was based off of Sting, which is kind of funny to look, but which is not punk, not punk at all. But he had a good look, and I think that's exactly what Moore was going for.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who the original artist in Swamp Thing was. That disappoints me, but
Yeah.
that was the idea.
Now,
Dalquin
did you
says,
know?
I also joined Rob Schneider in The Animal as well.
A lot of the writers for John Constantine have said that they've met him. I read this article. Apparently, Alan Moore said he met John Constantine once in real life, and a lot of the other writers have said the same thing.
That's part of the mistake, right? Especially the quote unquote wizard comics writers. Morrison, he's got a great story about I wanted to go to oh god, it's not Timbuktu, but some island bit and see aliens, and so that's what I went and done. There's some interesting stuff, and it's part of the mystique of them. So yeah, you can't discount it, right? I'm always a man of that level of chaos, right? That level of possibility. But at the end of the day, you know how much is just them building on their mystique, and that's part of being a quote unquote magician. That's always been part of it.
Really, yeah. It's part of the illusion, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Bringing up Constantine, I feel like I gotta get your opinion on City of Demons.
Ooh, the animated one, right?
The animated movie they put out.
That was a pretty good one, yeah.
DeMatteis wrote that. He wrote some of my favorite episodes of Justice League Unlimited as well. He knows how to inject heart into a story. He wrote some of the best Spider-Man stories. The original death of Aunt May, which was a big deal. Kraven's Last Hunt. DeMatteis is incredible. He took part of the story of All His Engines, I believe, is the arc. Hellblazer, all his engines. He took good chunks of that. I did not finish it because they released it in two halves, and I just never found the other half.
A movie version out now. If you go back, you can watch it all at once.
I need to because All His Engines is a very cool story.
I'm reading that one right now.
I love how through time he's tricking a death god or reminding a death god what he is. I think that was great.
I'm currently reading that story right now. It is very good.
And the art in All His Engines is really nice too. It's definitely on the grimier end.
I was gonna say I think Leonardo Manco might be my favorite Hellblazer artist. I think that's the one who does it, right? Let me look it up.
But it's funny because the City of Demons is a whole nother run in the comics, completely different. John dies and he doesn't know he's dead for a little bit, and he figures it out when he's at the hospital, and then it's him trying to figure out like some kind of curse to deal with these dead folks. But the art's almost Sean Gordon Murphy kind of looking with that interesting cross hatching and very angular stuff. I really like that run as well, but I haven't read that one in years. I have it in floppies, so it's in boxes instead of I always get to my trades easier. But that one I also do recommend. It's just funny they took that name City of Demons instead of doing the All His Engines, which I forgot what the All His Engines is the reference to.
So I think
that Mike Carey. That's
this guy. I think is my favorite Hellblazer artist. I've decided just recently. I can confirm he did do All His Engines. He's the artist.
Yeah, there you go.
But his name is Leonardo Manco, and I love his dark lines. Like just and I think whatever colors he's working with too, like. Just gets his art really well. It's a
biggie. Something like heavily inked like that. You either kind of want it black and white, or you want a colorist who knows what the hell they're doing. because I mean less dark heavy inks and less grime is a little bit easier to figure out a correct palette that doesn't take away from the story than I believe these heavy inks. I think it takes a real talent to be able to match that and elevate the work, which if a colorist isn't elevating it, they're not doing their job.
Yeah, really. Very
It's
true.
amazing actually how much a coloring how you color a comic can actually change the whole mood of it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to see. It'd be fun to see like an exercise of seeing like a page colored in different styles and just to see how different it can make the scene feel with the lighting choices and the style choices and all of that kind of stuff that they choose.
I can humor you that with Jack Irons issue 2, a page.
Oh,
from that,
really?
if you'd like. Yeah, I had
Really?
to remember I lost the colorist in between 1 and 2.
Oh, wow.
And so we did a few tests.
Really?
And
Oh,
I went
wow.
through about 3 colorists for a page. If you guys want to see, I can show you.
Yeah, that'd be cool,
And
dude.
you
I'd
can
love to see
kinda
that.
tell where Max is like, yeah, no, I don't like these guys. And I was in a hurry. I was just like, well, we got to produce this comic. And he's like, no, I want something good. And then he went looking for colorists, and then he found Steve and showed me the work. And I wasn't so sure. But then I was like, okay. And then I saw Steve do a page. And I was like, oh, okay, well, Maxie likes him. Let's get this comic done. And once I saw the comic and I started seeing the pages, oh man, I was very, very excited. I was like, oh, that's why Maxie liked him. And he still had that vibrancy that original colorist Matthias Laborde brought to the table that really it helps define the vibe of Jack, because Maxie's lines, again, it's one of those kind of gritty, sketchy kind of looks. And again, if you get the wrong colorist on that, it can really hurt it. Let me go ahead and find that though, and then I'll share that so you can see like what I'm talking about. Issue 2.
Nice,
Let
man.
me open
That's
up.
awesome that you have an
It's
example
probably
of
this
that.
one. Yeah, I saved. Okay, so that's. I'm not going to name the other colorists, but if they ever see this, they know who they are.
Huh, interesting.
There's that one. There's that one. Yeah, actually, I have 3 examples for you.
Nice.
And then let me get what we settled on with. Where colors, JPEG. There it is, and that's what we settled on. Okay, so let me go ahead and share screen real quick. And now Streamlabs can be a butt, so we'll see if I can share all of them. I don't want that one. I don't want that one. Okay, so here's one of the ones we didn't go with.
Okay. Oh, wait, let me put it up on the screen here. And add to stream.
So that's the one of the ones we didn't go with, and a little
little
heavy
dark.
on-
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little dark and it's a little
interesting.
more moody with the lighting.
Yeah, I was gonna
right?
say it's a little moody. Yeah.
So it's not a
interesting.
bad take.
It's almost I was gonna
if-
say it almost looks like something you'd see out of like a Star Wars or something.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually ended up using this colorist on one of our pinups for that campaign. So
Interesting.
I think that's part of why we wanted to try him for the heck of it. But it
This
just
is
it
cool.
just it took away so much from Maxie's lines. It was not
Mm.
subtle. And then we have another guy who did something kind of similar. Actually, we should have 4. I don't know where the other example is. It's very odd. But here's another one. So share screen. See if I can find it. So there's that one. I don't think. Yeah, there you go. Here's another one. Maxie was more of a fan of this one, but I didn't like the palette
wow.
myself. It was kind of ugly, in my opinion.
To me, it looks like a bit psychedelic.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
exactly what I was thinking, Michael. It has a
Yeah.
psychedelic look to it.
And it kind of works. Like it's not. I wouldn't say any of them are bad. It's just not what we wanted.
No, it doesn't fit Iron Wrist really. It's a little
yeah,
too fun, you know. The
That
other one's
might
too
be
dark. This
it.
one's a little too bright, you know.
And the last panel in this looks muddy to me too, so it really takes away from the horseman's appearance.
Interesting,
in my opinion.
yeah.
Can't do that.
No,
It's
they're
an
the
important
center.
story beat.
Yeah, they're stars, man. They gotta shine.
Yeah, and then let me see. This is probably it. Yes, this is it. And then this is what we ended up landing on after some time. And it's clearer. It still has that bright vibrancy to it, but it
That's
doesn't.
a good.
It
Yeah.
doesn't pull away from the inking, right? And that's what I think Maxie had the biggest problem is anybody I would find was kind of taking away from his ink.
You're right. This one doesn't pull away from any of the inking at all. Like you can see the ink so well with this.
If you
so,
ask me, it seemed like you had extreme on one end and extreme on the other, and you settled with something in the middle. Kind of what it
Yeah,
looks
that's
like.
probably what because again, Maxie he prefers that browner palette. You'll see it like with Mike Spicer. He did some work with Mike Spicer on a book called Kids and Monsters. And when they were previewing some of those pages, so Mike Spicer is really well known for working with Daniel Warren Johnson, and I really like that combo. But you'll see how he handles Max's inks way differently than Steve does. Steve goes for this vibrant color palette, whereas Spicer can be a little bit more muted, more earth tony. And both of them work. I just definitely prefer Steve's, in my opinion, on Max's line. But I think that might just be for Jack, right? I think Kids and Monsters is a really pretty book, and it looks really fun. I'm excited for that one.
Well, that's really interesting. You're right. I mean, it does. It totally changes everything about that page. The atmosphere completely changes.
And yeah, that's an important thing to do. So if you're gonna do coloring, do it right. Do it right, please. Don't just do it because you think a comic has to have color. It does not. Just do it if it serves your storytelling. And if it doesn't, then yeah, your team dynamics will be a little off.
And there's nothing wrong with a black and white comic,
No, not at all. In fact, we were discussing for a good period of time doing Jack 4 as a black and white with color as a stretch goal again, just to be able to fund, right?
You know what I would like
to
see?
Chunk.
It would be fun to do like a black and white Jack issue, but make it like a story component where like the first page is in color, and then like they hit him with like a Famine ink device, and boom, the world like color drains out of his world, and all of a sudden he's like experiencing things in black and white. And maybe it's like
there is something really cool that we're doing with issue 4 that Maxie wanted to do with issue 4. So every time I work with this guy again, he's learned a whole new bag of tricks, which is great. It's incredible. I always see that. So this one, with the last books, it was a little bit lighter inked. This one, he's really stepping up the weight of the inks.
Oh, wow.
In fact, if you guys are interested, now this has been shown to patrons already, so nobody's there. But if you want to see my favorite page so far that he's probably produced, I'm happy to show that.
Sure.
Yeah, bust that
So you
out.
can see kind of how he's upgraded. This is page 4 of issue 4. Patrons have seen it.
Coming.
I'll be previewing these closer to the campaign's launch more publicly, but I'm happy to do that here. I love this page. I think it's so killer. Again, it's one of my favorite pages he's produced.
Whoa.
Oh, hell yeah.
Shit, dude. Now we got kaijus up in here.
Yes, we've always had kaijus in Iron Fist Comics. It's just been working towards it.
Shit,
but you'll see how heavy ink it is, and it just adds this weight to it, this darkness. On issue 4, we're traveling through 4 different layers of Famine ink, 4 different layers of hell, right? It's a little bit of Dante's Inferno. And so as a black and white book, it could stand. That's kind of where I'm coming from. So I've always been kind of like, well, do we need it? Well, yeah, because I love my team and they always produce something more. So we are going to work for a color book in issue 4. We did solve that, but we didn't have to.
Dude, I almost feel like there may be demand for like a black and white edition of this series at some point. Like you could totally put out a volume of that.
Oh, Max, I would love that. I think Maxie would like that too. In fact, All Coins has had the idea forever to do even before Marvel and DC were doing these black, white, and blood kind of books where they throw a little red in it. We were going to do black, white, and chrome, I think, or black and chrome, where we would do a little bit of metal coloring in there with it. And never fall through on that, but it would be much cheaper coloring, right? And that was part of the idea. But man, I just huge fan. This book's coming together gorgeously, and he's actually going to be producing it while the campaign's going. So we should be releasing sooner if we fund. So I'm super excited for this issue, and this page, man, I can't stop looking at it. Just the mood he was able to put into it is
Cody makes a cameo apparently.
Oh, spoilers. But yeah, so that's that. But again, like that's the difference. Like you don't have to do color, but if you're gonna do color, do it right. I guess that was the whole point of my spiel here and showing that is it's important. And like you said, Mike Carey and whoever his colorist was, he did that again with those heavy inks. You have to do it right.
That's and you got me craving to see my Seder inks now.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Yeah, I need to get back to making comics. I've took a break for while I was in between jobs and stuff. And so need to get back to that. And next up, we got another issue of Endemic, and then I got to do the first issue of my Cyberpunk comic.
Yes.
We're very
That was
stoked on
coming
that one.
along.
Yeah,
a little
how's
bit,
that?
if I recall.
Thank you.
How's that working out?
I'm excited for that one. The artist I think I've landed with is really cool. If you want to follow go check out their stuff on Twitter. The tag is Porygon. That's P. I think it's P0R. Let's see. I don't know. I think it's a 0. Maybe it's an O. P. It's Someone look it up and tell me. Porygon. Porygon, like the Pokemon. I'm assuming. But it could be the O could be a 0. So that's all I know. I'm looking at. I'm like, is that a 0?
Pork and beans.
Pork and beans. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, no, Pori. Pretty sure.
Let me try with the 0. Yeah. Okay, I think it is with a 0. It's like P0RYGON.
GON. Do I follow them?
And
Is it in Japanese?
yes.
Okay, then maybe I don't follow them, but I did find them.
Then they should have the pinned one is going to be the commission prices and stuff, and it's like a little manga art kind of thing.
Yes. Oh, that's a fun art style. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This artist is a big fan of My Hero Academia, and so am I, and so I feel like we're going to vibe pretty well as creatives. So I'm pretty stoked to work with him.
Important. Very important factor.
Yeah, it's very, very important. And they've been coming up with some really cool like ideas on their own for the series. Like I told them the whole premise that I had for it, about what I wanted for the series, about how it's essentially like, just if I had to boil it down, like it has elements of Sherlock Holmes, Fast and Furious, of these kind of things. It's essentially a crime drama with cyberpunk trappings. But what's fun is I was like, come up with I commissioned some concept art. I'm like, come up with these characters, right? I don't even have names. Like I've never done that before. Like I don't even have a name for the characters. And so they came back with the character concept with names, ideas for their powers, even like I'm like, again, bringing that kind of love for My Hero Academia, where I'm like, oh, you're kind of like My Hero Academifying a cyberpunk. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting now. Like I hadn't even conceptualized that. It's essentially making cyberpunk into a shonen, right? And how would that look like? And so I'm really excited to kind of explore that idea, because I don't think that's been tapped into yet. Like let me give you an example just to kind of top off the point. Like one of the characters is the girlfriend, like the main character's girlfriend, and I was like, I didn't have a power for her. I thought maybe she'd use a sword or something, but he came up with this idea of like these not razors, but like the hands can detach with like zip wires essentially and extend out, and so that's almost like a superhero power you'd see, right? Like stretchy arms, almost like out of a superhero or something, right? But it's cyberpunk, right? It's something that's been modified in their own flesh, which is a very cyberpunk thing. So I kind of like the idea of exploring that idea and making it more fun with the kind of different powers or different things that you can do with cyberpunk technology. So it's gonna be cool. And that's my end of my speech.
Yep, gotcha.
But yeah, for long story short, I'm having fun with it.
That's the biggie. That's the biggie.
Oh man, but yeah. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming out from Wikid on all fronts. A lot of cool stuff being worked on and stuff.
Yeah, maybe you guys can help me out with this. I little something here. I haven't seen a whole lot of just Viking horror.
Horror. Let me try and think.
Viking themed horror specifically, like I like you guys mentioned, like maybe Berserk or something like that might follow along in those lines. But like I feel like I'm tapping into something here that isn't.
But
right,
yeah. Yeah,
I think
specifically.
Cody's right. I think Berserk's more medieval horror. I don't know about Viking horror specifically.
It's like it's like medieval fantasy horror, because there's elves and such in Berserk. But yeah, there would be elves in Viking horror as well. So yeah, I don't know. I can't I couldn't pick something out that is that. Like there's moments of horror in a lot of Viking stories. But
wait, I got one. Well,
overall,
does Beowulf count? Maybe.
Oh yeah, I mean, he does rip people apart and eat them.
I mean, I don't know that I call it horror though.
Not
Yeah, I don't
specifically.
know.
That's a hero's journey kind of deal, but
Oh,
depends
okay.
how you present it, right? Like if you're presenting it as like from Grendel's perspective, it
Yeah.
could be. You could even go slasher angle with it. That'd be a trip.
Right?
That would be a trip, dude. Oh man, but you're right. That's very interesting. I think you're right. It is kind of like I don't think there's a lot of that out there either. Because Vikings, as in itself, I feel like again is like it's just recently got that resurgence. So for a while, it's been such a niche category, niche genre, almost even more niche than like say like pirates or old westerns.
Mm.
Right. I think I think one of the things that distinguishes it also is the use of Viking mythology in it. There are a lot of mythological tales as far as Norse mythology goes. There are even tales involving Vikings, but there seems to be very few tales where you actually get to see Vikings actually interact with Viking mythology, with Norse mythology. And I think adding a horror twist to that, I think I don't know. I guess I think it makes it unique.
No, I definitely agree. Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how that kind of turns out. It definitely hasn't really been done before in that way. I don't think.
I think we got a cool tagline for it too. Hell hath no fury like a vulva scorned.
The Volvasorn? What is that? What is that? Sounds dirty.
No, I guess it does sound a little dirty, but
for
it's
me,
it's not the same kind of vulva you're thinking of.
Oh, I kind of figure, but I'm like, I don't know.
No, a vulva is, I mean, not exactly the same, but essentially a Viking witch.
No, okay. Gotcha.
Kind of like okay, yeah, like Grendel, right?
Grendel was like the God, was it? It was a child of some dark god or something.
Yeah. Oh, like a giant or something, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, no, I get you on
Okay.
witch. It's kind of like a hag in medieval
yeah.
lore or things like that. That makes sense.
Right. In fact, even
that's right. Grendel's mother was a
title
hag.
of the comic Satyr. Satyr is what the Vikings would call magic.
I go see. If you're just saying it, it makes me think of the Grecian half ram.
Oh, right.
Half person. Satyr.
Totally.
Right. But no, Satyr. I've seen it spelled and stuff because it's even just a straight DR if I remember right. So that makes sense. No, I had not heard that term for Viking magic. Yeah, I'm not that key into Norse mythology. Enough to understand bits of it, and then there's like the of course the Marvel Comics bits of it that some of it takes it from the story, but very little. So yeah, I'm always happy for like historical folklore. I always love that.
Actually, I being Swedish, I've always wanted to do something involving my Viking heritage, as far as the story goes. Yeah, and I really this is my first opportunity to get a chance to do that, to really explore that part of my heritage, I guess, and I think I find that pretty exciting.
Dollar Coins is giving us a breakdown of the plot of Beowulf here in the chat.
Grendel was the king's son he had with a witch lady, which makes sense, a scorned child, and that's why he kept coming back to try and destroy the kingdom. That makes sense. And Beowulf slays him and lays with the same lady and makes another son. That's also crazy because the cyclical nature. Again, Jormungandr, right?
At least that's what I remember from the movie. Which movie is that? The one with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie?
That was an interesting attempt to do the CGI thing. There was some nifty nifty visuals in there.
There is an older one that may hold up. I'm not sure. There's like an old version of that story that was made into a movie.
I know we had to read the original, adapted to English, of course, way back when.
In high school?
I was at school. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like
me too.
Or something like that. Just to kind of get an idea of the old English and old Norse, English, old European writing.
Man, I couldn't understand a lot of that stuff.
We did Canterbury Tales, things like that.
It's like if you try and read Dante's Inferno, it's kind of difficult. It's hard to understand.
Yeah, I went through to get most of the meat. I went through retellings, right? Modern retellings. So I did. I went through Inferno, Purgatory or Purgatoro, something like that, and then Paradiso. It's a great set of stories, right? It's just funny. 9 layers of hell, but there's technically 10 because one of the layers is 2 layers. That got me. I was like, really, Dante? Really? You even say there's 2 layers, but you call it 1 layer. He got questions it as he's going through.
That's funny.
It was that part stuck out with me. I was like, wow, he even called himself out on that inconsistency, and in an old writing like that. I thought that was kind of funny.
Honestly, I'm surprised that there's not been a modern retelling of that, like on TV or movies, like of that trilogy.
Yeah,
wasn't there like a game or something?
Yeah,
that
it was
kinda-
very
that
loosely
walked you
based.
through the story.
It's very loosely based, and it's just based on Inferno, so it doesn't cover the second part and third part. But it's also just very like it's like they take a lot of liberties like with the story, and it make it into more of an action thing, and so it's very different from the original in that respect.
Yeah, Inferno is just trying to communicate the layers of hell to the common man, as well as show you kind of what you can work for, where you can expect to go, and allies, enemies, the types of demons. It was very much, again, folklore, but it was trying to do it in a way that the church would approve. so a lot of the church went on to that with their fire and brimstone services, and their ideas of hell came from that, and so it was very influential. But people forget about Purgatory and Paradiso, and I think particularly Purgatory was a really interesting story that kind of got left out of the fire and brimstone speeches.
I actually read it
mid-ground.
originally as all as one book called The Divine Comedy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a poem
Exactly.
too. I mean, it's like that's why it's so hard. It's not only is it an Italian poem that's then translated in English, but it's like it's very dense in itself. It's such a huge book. Like so yeah, it's a tough read, that's for sure.
I think my favorite poetic prose type book like that has got to be Milton's Paradise Lost.
Interesting. I've heard a lot about that one. I've always, it's got such an enticing title too, right? Like Paradise Lost. I gotta find out what that was. And they talk about it, funnily enough, in Final Fantasy, that one 7 prequel series, Crisis Core. They didn't talk about it. It's like brought up. It's like heavily inspired by that. Like they have like a plot line about a book like that, and I'm pretty sure it's if it's not the same book, it's inspired by that. I'm pretty sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, what have you read that one?
Yeah. Are you talking to me? Yeah, I read it.
You
if you want to summarize that, I'd love to hear what it's about.
Well, I mean,
if you can,
if it's possible.
A brief synopsis would be it's an entirely different take on the angels fall from heaven. And even how Satan and the angels perceive themselves and their position in hell after having fallen. They say that I'm trying to remember the exact quote in it that he uses. That the mind is a cage unto itself, or a prison unto itself, and you can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. That comes from Paradise Lost, or there's a long hard road out of hell.
Damn, this guy come up with all the good ones.
Right.
Damn, that's cool. That is an interesting take. I mean, that's one of the things that drew me to like some of the early Hellblazer comics when they deal with the Lucifer and stuff and his story and the First of the Fallen and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty interesting. The biblical kind of lore is kind of interesting.
What was the name of the demon who gives John his blood to save John's life? And then there's a whole arc that John's dealing with the blood, and then he gets rid of it, and then he's like super empty for a while. I forgot the
It's an N name, right?
Yeah. Oh god, that's gonna bug me. But he's another one. They tend to go with the stronger biblical archetypes in Hellblazer, which it's always interesting.
And he comes back a lot too.
The more
Nergal.
pagans. There you go, Nurgle. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You find them in 40k as well. And you'll find a lot of the demon names get reused. 40k like to actually name a lot of the heroes after demons, like Azrael, and a lot of them after fallen angels.
No, that's funny.
I thought that was an interesting bit. And then they would name some of the chaos after direct demons too. But there's that there's a gravity to using that material, and I think that's usually what writers these days are trying to do with it, is to borrow that gravitas.
Didn't I want to say it was McFarlane actually just started naming angels the names of the books of the Bible.
Was that out?
McFarlane, I think, did that in Spawn.
McFarlane Toys?
No,
How
it
could
was
be
Spawn
Spawn?
comic. Todd McFarlane, the guy who.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, in the comic.
Yeah, I have not followed the Spawn universe at all. I know Spawn as a character and such, and I totally respect Todd. But yeah, I don't know
The lore and whatnot.
yeah, I don't. I know Malaboja. He was definitely one of the Lords of Hell back in the day. So even from the start, they had that going. But yeah, I have no idea how he built upon it. But I'm kind of stoked that he went ahead and decided to pull the trigger on the universe, and I hope it works out for him.
Yeah, there's bring it back to the kind of Vertigo stuff we were talking about earlier. There's a bit of a Vertigo Karen Berger universe. If you go back to a lot of the older books, where like Hellblazer, Sandman, Lucifer, like a lot of these they're all kind of existing within the same universe because they have a lot of crossover elements. Where John Constantine shows up in Sandman, and Lucifer gets his own spin-off series, and all this crazy stuff,
Yeah, they handled that great. Again, it was really cool to see, and it sucks that once they went on to greater things, i.e., greater things that happened. Some of their work doesn't eclipse that, but there was never a compass like that again, where you like you're saying, there was kind of a vibe, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Then later Vertigo was all over the place. You had books about like dark border towns, that it wasn't like Vertigo had like at least psychological bit to it, and it usually towards psychological horror or fantasy exploration, again in the psyche, a lot of big symbolism and concepts, basically old English magic kind of stuff, and that definitely did leave it at a point, and then once that was gone, it kind of just decayed, and it was sad to see.
Yeah, I think it had such a strong image, in those early days. You knew you were reading a Vertigo book.
Yes.
The minute you picked it up, you're like, okay, yeah. So yeah, I think that got lost, like you said, eventually over time, which is unfortunate, but it is so nice to go back and have. There's so many great classic series from that era that it is still, it's still such a great time to think about. Like Michael's reading Preacher. That's such a great Vertigo series.
Can't believe we forgot to bring up Gaiman till now when we were talking about those guys. Honestly, I feel bad now.
He definitely should be included with Sandman, and he even wrote an excellent issue of Hellblazer. One of my favorite.
Gaiman's great with like his mysticism, and he's definitely more gentle than the other guys. The other guys are a lot more edgy. Gaiman's definitely more poetic and romantic with it.
Yeah, that's a very good way to look at it. That's true. I think that's probably why I gravitate to his writing a little more.
That actually brings up an interesting point. How well, as writers, how well do you think you could write? Like for instance, when I write, it tends to be horror, tends to be gory, that kind of a thing. I tend to have a style that just comes out of me when I write. But do you think you could write outside of that just natural genre for you?
I've always wanted to try.
I've had fun doing that. I've never had any. Well, no. To be fair, it'll manifest some point. Hopefully this year, something else I worked on. So I've worked on a couple different genres. Jack is kind of science fiction, fantasy, Western, right? So it's a lot of different genres. Allows me to throw a bunch of bits in there. But I've done work that's more comedic. I've done work that is I just had my short in the Kill Journal come out, right, and that's been hitting folks' hands, which is excellent. And that was Slasher, which I had zero experience with until then. So I have fun trying to get out of that box. I was really glad with the Kill Journal to have an editor who knew what he wanted out of it and could steer me with it, because Slasher was a genre I was not like comfortable, not comfortable with, but like I wasn't confident with, because it's not a genre I have too much experience with. Horror for me usually came in addition to adventure, or in addition to psychological exploration, or in addition to things like Slasher in particular is a very specific kind of horror. And yeah, I was not there, but I like pushing out of that box. I just don't get as much opportunity.
That's cool, man.
I try and put some like Jack has horror, it has science fiction, it has comedy, it has everything, so it allows me to flex all those muscles, so I don't feel the need to push too hard outside of that. But when I've been given the opportunity, I've been happy to. I do enjoy trying to test myself, and that's one of the primary ways, right? You get comfortable in a mode. Sometimes it can get stale, sometimes not.
I think a genre that would be cool to explore would be magical realism, because like there's people like, I don't know if you guys know Sim and Rushdie, or maybe even like people like Kurt Vonnegut. You know, those kind of like things where it's like it's close to reality, but there's just this oddity about it. I want to try something like that. Like I feel like that's
like
tough to
surrealism.
nail. Yeah, it's like surrealism, but it's closer to reality than realism. So it's like you've got realistic elements with dashes of surrealism in it that make it feel weird, because like it's. Have you ever read Cat's Cradle by any chance? Like if you haven't, you should read that. It's a great freaking book. It's amazing. It's about the end of the world. It's like he when he wrote it, he was like, how do I make a funny book about the end of the world? And it is so good. It is so freaking amazing, and it's got elements of like nuclear power and World War II, and because he was growing up during that time, and so it's just an incredible book. But like, so it's this element of like, I don't know, like where the fantasy meets the real world. Yeah.
Where it doesn't overtake the reality.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, where the reality is still always the forefront. And so when you are drawn out with the fantastical elements, it gives you this weird, fun, bizarre feeling of going on this odd journey through this weird world, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's fun. I love those kind of stories. But I've never written anything like it. Everything I write is very much grounded. It's either in fantasy or it's in reality. So I think it'd be fun to try and do something in between those two.
I'm currently trying to rewrite the Christmas mythos.
That is not easy.
I'm aiming for somewhere around 11 or 12 as far as age range goes for the book.
Okay,
which is a new one for me. I'm more of a mature readers kind of a writer.
Very true.
So that one's definitely
no Colombian
stretching
neckties in
my
this
writing
one.
abilities. What was that?
You know what I mean? No Colombian neckties in this one.
No Colombian neckties in this one. No.
Yeah.
Unless they're made of the finest silk on a handsome felt.
Peruvian necktie, maybe. That's that's okay.
That's so much better.
Yes. But that's funny, dude.
No, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to avoid any cutting open and pulling out any body parts.
You got to. Otherwise, it's just gonna be like Krampus. It's like it'll be a horror Christmas movie.
Like A Nightmare Before Christmas. They'll think it's this fun Christmas book, and then they'll bust open the toy and a monster will come out and grab them or something.
Exactly. Yes. There's some good I like cross genre stuff like that. Like that show Happy that came out, how did some fun Christmas stuff that was really twisted.
More Grant Morrison work.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Totally. That is pretty enjoyable. That's more of like it's hard to. So again, we were talking about those guys and their differences in humor, right? I land more with Ennis's humor, particularly on The Punisher. There's some other works that he does that like the humor doesn't land with me, and I really like when Ennis works in military fiction. He's probably best comic writer to work in that genre. Sarah was wonderful from TK Studios. Just a beautiful like love story, not love story, but like a love letter. That's the word. Love letter to the female Russian snipers. It was very, very good. And then again, like I said, Fury War Gone. That's one for the CIA where it's a trip. It's a trip.
He did the Tuskegee Airmen one as well.
Yeah. Morrison, though, again, I'll bring up We 3 again if folks haven't read it. If you got a strong stomach, it's a strong bit about animal testing and the loyalty between animals and like the interpersonality and connectivity between human and animal and all those dynamics. I think he did that masterfully and beautifully, and it is so heart-wrenching. And the artist does some of the craziest paneling I've ever seen. It really tells the story really well.
Which one was that?
It's called We 3, so it's
We3,
W-E
really?
and then 3.
Oh no! Wait, which one's that?
So there's 3 animals who are turned into. Yeah, I think you might have come across it. It's such a heartbreak, but it has a happy ending, kinda, which I didn't expect from Morrison. But it's like most of it is just struggle and tears and so much. It's so heavy, but that's my favorite of his work that I've read.
That's
probably not the best, but that's my favorite of his work because of how he handled those subjects.
Wow.
And then I read like a short with Hellblazer that I hated, and I forgot what it was, but it was
really?
It had no humor to it. It was definitely an expression of ugly is the best way I could put it. And there's value in that. Some people might really resonate with it. Didn't for me. We 3 has like all that expression of ugly to it, no question. But at the end of the bit, he tried to communicate something good and a little bit of hope. And I need that in most of my work, and in most of my journeys that I want to take with reading. I don't need to feel good, but I need to feel that there was a decent intention in telling the story.
So that was not your favorite Hellblazer then?
No, and I can't pick it out. It was part of the. I don't even think it was published because I think it was part of the Rare Stories or whatever that graphic novel. God, where is it? No, not Dangerous Habits.
Maybe
it's called Rare.
It could have been issue 25 or 26 as well, possibly. He did write a couple of those.
Yeah,
maybe one of those too.
I think it's in Rare Cuts.
Speaking of Rare Cuts, one y'all should check out is number 84 for Hellblazer. It's issue number 84. Jamie Delano, the original writer, comes back for a really fun issue about a crazy monkey. It's really weird. It's really funny, but I don't want to spoil it. But it's got Chaz, it's got John Constantine, and it's got a monkey. That's all you need to know.
It's the one with like the old lady and the monkey's got like this weird like.
That's the one.
The monkey's dressed up as the lady.
Yeah, that's the one.
Weird. Yeah, that's a trip.
Smoking.
My favorite, I forgot what number it is the one where he's dealing with the dog spirit. But that's me personally, right? Where the his flat, one of his neighbor's flats, is being haunted. There's a cat that kind of keeps roaming, so there's a story with that. But then it's him exercising this dog's spirit. And it was handled with such wonderful class. And it ends with a joke. I mean, it's one of the more light-hearted ones. They're not worried about being ripped to bits. It's just him trying to save something, and that's where it stands. And I really appreciate that issue.
Hellblazer is such a good series for that because it has standalone stories that are amazing, it has longer form stories that are amazing, but it always feels like the same character, and it feels like he's growing throughout. He's getting older, he's changing, and so like it just was a very consistent character throughout. In terms of it being written and the different things he would go through in the comic, and so like all the stories are just so fun. Like you said, like even just the one shots. Another comic that might be filler, but it doesn't feel like filler in Hellblazer.
Yeah, and the fact that they were able to keep that quality up between so many different writers, it's really impressive. Definitely had a good editorial picking the teams.
Hell yeah.
I think that was the key, right? They knowing what was a good idea for people.
Yeah, it's funny. I just at my new job, we just had a party because my boss I was actually leaving, and someone said a quote that kind of reminds me of, which is a good boss is someone who hires talented people and then gets out of their way.
I can very much say that. Agree. Micromanagement. I can't. Out of natural occurrence, I resist it.
Oh man, yeah, that's pretty good.
So hey, Michael. By the way, I put a link to that episode there
Oh yeah, where at? Let's see.
in
Oh,
the
in the
private
private.
chat
Let's
there.
see. What's this? Oh, this is the. Can I put that in the main chat? Do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. This is the podcast that we did, I think, right?
Yeah.
Nice. So there's a link. You can copy and paste that in the chat. Go listen in on the podcast that me and Michael did. That was pretty fun. It was the first time I had gotten to do an interview about my own comic for the most part. And so it was fun to like dive into it and really go into the creation of how, what it took to create it and how I got inspired and all that. And, some fun stuff in there. Good conversation.
Yeah, we talked about the forming of Wikid too. Even
Mhm,
that was
mhm,
pretty
mhm.
cool.
By the way,
Turns
okay,
out Wikid and Omen Comics both started at the same time.
which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
When did Ironverse Comics kind of first start, Cody?
It depends, right? As a
Mhm.
thing, probably late 2018. Like it didn't have a
Okay.
name, but that's when like really got closer with dollar coins and kind of the main groups were
That
formed.
makes sense because that was when we kind of that same year we kind of gotten together.
Yep, bingo, and that
Um,
was part of the bit too,
So-
right? I had footing, but honestly, the the sparks like 16 years back.
Right. Right, exactly. I always knew that it was a long-term thing for you, like going back way back, and with that initial sketch that you have, even.
Yeah, that one's from like 2012, but the original script was
Whoa.
2008.
I commend you for coming back and holding on to that project like that and wanting to keep doing it like that because that takes a lot of dedication.
Yeah. Well, it's stubbornness, right? Maybe not having
Mhm.
can't put it all.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So we both really got all three of us really got going in 2018. How about you, Matt?
Oh, I'd
around.
have to say probably about 2019.
Okay.
So pretty close.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, y'all. I gotta bounce. I'll
Yeah, I
talk to you
think.
later.
Well, actually, if you want, I think this is probably a good place to start wrapping up. We've been having a good conversation, so we can wind down here with some plugs.
All right.
So why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Sure. You can find Omen Comics at Comics Omen on Twitter. Also at Omen Comics on Facebook. My personal tag is at Michael NUNNELE5. There's also Revelation Comics, and don't forget we got that Seder comic
Nice.
ready for pre-launch sign up.
And what's the date it's launching?
We're looking at what the current date we have set is around the 23rd.
Cool, man. Very exciting. That's gonna be awesome to see. Well, thank you so much for joining us, man. It was good to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah. Nice to be here.
All right, man. We'll see you next time.
All right, bye.
All right, and then who wants to go next on plugs?
Yeah, since I wasn't able to say anything about this earlier, but Mechanic
Sure.
Chronicles is getting ready to go to fulfillment next month.
Yes. Excellent.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry it took so long, but new job and all.
I
Really
get that, man.
all the time.
Yeah, that'll do it for sure. Yeah, I always feel like that transition period is always the most difficult, and then you're trying to learn all this new stuff, and so yeah, it can be a lot.
3 months at a training store, then opened up the new store, and boy, what
Oh boy,
crazy time that was.
yeah, really, wow. Well, yeah, that's exciting, man. We'll definitely be. I'm sure people will be really excited to see that come out, and we'll be getting that out to people. And Comics Wellspring, I assume, is who will be printing it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Nice.
It's something I'll pick up at the printers and take pictures of the comics. So
that's pretty awesome, dude.
This is actually happening.
Yeah, it's pretty nice you
Yeah.
live next to the printer like that.
Yeah, and it's about a 2-week turnaround rate, I think.
Okay, yeah, they're fast, man. That's the one thing I've absolutely loved about working with them is they're fast. They're on top of things. They respond. They get right to work. There's no dilly dallying. There's no miscommunications. They're super super efficient, and I appreciate that.
And I can also inspect the comics before sending them out to you for fulfillment because
Nice.
it's right there in my house.
Right? Kind of saves some issues if there's any problems with the comics themselves.
If there's any problems, I go back to the printer and show them what happened.
Yep, yep. It makes it a lot easier, that's for sure.
A lot of fun too.
Right, yeah, that is kind of nice. Like you actually get to go to the printer and pick them up. That'll be a very fun day. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Well, where can people find you online so they can make sure that they find out when those get shipped out?
On Twitter, you can find me at @MattTrade. I'm working on a website so that people can keep an eye out on my future projects, as well as upcoming Patreon.
Very nice, man. Very nice, very nice. And then how about you, Mr. Cody?
All right. Well, as folks know, I'm Cody with Ironverse Comics. You can get all the links you need to get in contact with us on basically any social media platform on ironversecomics.com. Just go to contact and you'll probably find your platform of choice and where we are on it. Besides that, issue number 4 launching, it might be sooner than I thought, simply because Maxie delivered these pages so quick, and I'm kind of wanting to get on that game. So it might be early February when I was planning mid-February. I got a couple other things in the work. We're waiting on one of the 3 pinups to kind of be finalized. But we'll be heading there. I'm gonna go ahead, if I can, throw that pre-launch link in the chat, if I may. If folks here
Definitely,
haven't
yeah.
signed up, I'd appreciate if you do. We are limiting some tiers this go. Nothing to do with the books unless somehow we sell like hotcakes, in which case I will probably add another tier that's basically the same as the limited comic tier. But we'll see. But there's some full-size posters and stuff like that are going to be limited to like handfuls of 50. So it would be good if folks are interested in that kind of exclusive stuff. They go ahead and get signed on up for it, and I hope they'll be there to help us continue our little Galactic Armageddon. Quite proud of issue number 4, both the script and the line art that's in so far, and we've tried to improve every go, and I think we've succeeded. So hopefully folks will help us get there this go. It's going to be an interesting roll of the dice, and I'm happy to do it.
And you got that link up on the screen there for you guys if you want to go and check that out for the pre-launch page.
All righty. And yeah, everything else, ironversecomics.com. You can snag our issues through Wikid, wikidpublishing.net, of course, but our links are also on ironversecomics.com to get there.
Sweet.
So wherever you can find them. I would love to hear that we sold out on those next printings, so you folks can make that happen for us. I'd be much appreciative.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it, man. That was a good conversation. It was fun chatting with you guys, especially since it's been a while. So we'll definitely be getting the podcast back into its rotation again. Now that we're back here in 2022. But yep, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for watching all. It was good to see you guys in the chat, and good luck making your comics out there. We want to see what you guys got. So if you guys got anything cool, send them our way. We're always open to see new things and check out new creations. So hit us up on Twitter at Wikid Publishing, and of course give us a like, subscribe if you can, and we'll see you on a further episode. Thanks everyone.